Minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage to
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
The minimum wage.
Last February, I was working as a waitress in downtown Manhattan at a taqueria. I worked shoulder to shoulder with undocumented workers who often worked harder and hardest for the least amount of money. I was on my feet working 12-hour days with no structured breaks. I didn't have health care. I wasn't being paid a living wage. And I didn't think that I deserved any of those things.
Waiters and waitresses nationwide are overworked and underpaid. They spend hours upon hours on their feet with little to no breaks at such a tiny pay of only $2.63 an hour.
I think if a person goes to work, they deserve to draw a fair wage, and if they decide to work for $2.63 an hour, I think that's up to them to do. But I also feel like that same person can negotiate their own self up to to be at the minimum wage based off the service that they provide and do. So that should be up to the employer and the employee. Now I will tell you, I think since COVID has taken place, that the low rate that waitresses get paid, that's all going to change because they're in a popular demand right now. People really want them, that they can kind of dictate what they want to work. They should be able to make $11, $12, $13 an hour plus their tips. So that'd be kind of up to them. I think they can work their way through to that.
I think that if their tips are usually oftentimes cash tips, and are they declaring that on their income taxes and paying taxes on that, or is that just straight cash that they're getting? The important thing is, like, let's look at like what they're making per hour and then include their tips, and you've got your credit card tips and cash tips. Now a lot of people I know in the service industry are not declaring their cash tips on their income taxes or paying no taxes on that. I might make a hard case that to raise them up to $11 an hour and allow them to get cash tips without paying any taxes on that is inherently not fair either.
I absolutely agree that they should have access to minimum wage at least. You know, I've always not understand why waitresses and waiters got paid the way they got paid. I know they base it on the tips and all that, the average tips and all that, but yeah, I think they should have a certain salary that they receive along with the tips that they make.
But that's not the only problem. Even if they were to get bumped up to a minimum wage, that's not something that you can live off of. People are struggling all the same on minimum wage, with inflation making it as if nothing ever even got raised in the first place.
So I should think that this should be between the employer and the employee, that they should work out the arrangement for what the work that they're willing to do and for what they're willing to be paid for it, and that that's nobody else's business besides the employer and the employee. So I actually think that this should not be something that people are voting on. People should just negotiate their rate of pay with the person that they're going to be working for.
The minimum wage should be left alone for a free market to decide. The people can decide what they want to work for, how much they want to work for, and that'd be between the employer and the person themselves is how I feel about that.
Mr. Speaker, the Raise the Wage Act gradually increases the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2025, thereby fulfilling a promise to the American people that with hard work comes, at a minimum, a livable wage.
No matter what it is in life, there's always going to be people on both sides of the fight. Whether it's good or whether it's bad is all going to be up to you.
The Raise the Wage Act. This legislation would raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, a 107% increase over the current rate of $7.25 an hour. An increase of this magnitude could harm American businesses, could harm American consumers, and certainly will harm American workers. The legislation does not consider the labor market. It disincentivizes job growth and has the potential to leave nearly 4 million workers unemployed.
So I think that it's a worthwhile idea, and it's very noble to want to raise people's wages. Everybody thinks that that is a great idea on its surface, but the problem with the minimum wage, especially federal minimum wage, applies the same standard across many different and disparate areas that don't actually have the same effect of the minimum wage. Research over time has shown that the rural effect of the minimum wage is much higher than the urban effect of the minimum wage, and there's already higher minimum wages in 29 states and DC that cover 60% of the US population. The US South is actually going to be hit very hard by a federal minimum wage.